Janessa. Today's video is going to be about how to pass your real estate exam on the first try. I'm going to share all my tips and tricks and exactly how I passed on my first try. Let's get right into it. You're nearing the end of your courses or you've scheduled your final exam and it's crunch time. It's time to get started on studying. Taking the final exam is extremely nerve-wracking, especially if you don't feel ready and you don't know where to start. I passed on my first try and I want to help you avoid feeling unprepared and show you how I did it. So the first thing I did was review course chapter summaries. This really helped me out because I know the courses are extremely boring and they can really put you to sleep, but quickly reviewing them and going through and skimming through each chapter was extremely helpful because I kind of got a refresher. So for example, my real estate principles book, after each chapter had a quick summary. This is at least how my books were. And I just did bullet points. I highlighted whatever I didn't really remember. If I really didn't understand what I was reading and I was completely like, what the heck is this? I read the whole chapter. So definitely dedicate the time to a whole chapter if you don't understand it. Something I also did was really helpful was I made flashcards because I did flashcards on vocab mainly because vocab is extremely important. This is going to be your career. You're going to be professional. You want to understand the language and the terminology. Vocab is basically what got me through the test because I really understood it. There were terms that were pretty hard to understand or they're really similar to each other, so flashcards definitely helped me, and I just did the basic, like on the front, the term, on the back, the definition. If I didn't understand it, it went on the pile on the right. If I understood it, it went on the pile on the left, and I just went through the right pile like all the time. Okay, there are questions on the test where like I would partially understand what they're asking me. Like there are questions where they're like 4 to 6 sentences long and they have so much extra verbiage thrown in them that it's really hard to understand what they're actually asking. But if you're able to break it down and like identify one of the vocab words, you'll be able to figure it out. That's exactly what I did, and that's how I passed the test. I really do feel that because I was so strong on studying, I worked so hard on like studying the vocab words, I was able to pass. So make sure you're focusing on vocab and just going through your flashcards, highlighting on the chapter summaries, and just practicing on that. Because remember, like I said, this is going to be your career. You're going to be a professional. You want to understand what you're doing and what you're saying, okay? Another tip I would definitely do is I would go on the DRE website. So here's this paper right here where it breaks down the test and what percentage of what's going to be on the test, because you don't want to be overwhelming yourself and focusing on the really small things only to find out that it's a small percentage of what's going to be on the test. You want to focus on the bigger things, okay? So definitely check out on your DRE website what's going to be on the test and they'll break it down for you. Something else that I did was extremely helpful was watching YouTube videos. I listen to YouTube videos like they were audio like podcasts. I would be on my run and I'd be listening to these YouTube videos. I would be showering instead of listening to music. I would be listening to my YouTube videos. Even in my car rides, like I drove to Sacramento to take my test and I'm like 6 hours away from it. I listened to these YouTube videos a lot of the drive, okay, because they went through the questions. They would include different questions and they would wait for you to answer. You answer and they'll tell you this is the correct answer and they'll tell you why. They include a lot of terminology, so they would go through the vocab too and they would explain everything, all the important stuff that's going to be on the test and the basics of what you need to know. And a lot of that stuff was repetitive in each video, but I liked it because I was really getting like deep into it and I really understood what they were telling me. Like I was able to say the whole YouTube video like out loud, like I knew what they were gonna say next, you know, because I watched it so much. So I'm gonna include the 2 YouTube videos that I watched down below. I'm gonna put the links in there. I would definitely check them out. They're really helpful. This is what really saved my life, actually. It was Prep Agent. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's just a website where there's different bundles, different packages you can choose from, and they'll include videos, vocab, flashcards that I already made, so if you don't want to make your own. There's webinars where you can go through, like, practice exams with people. There is a crash course book. It's 80 pages. It was extremely helpful, too, because I was actually given this California real estate exam prep book, but this was kind of like junk to me. Like, I didn't really read it. It wasn't that helpful. It was a lot of extra stuff that I felt like I wasn't gonna need. But Prep Agent was extremely helpful. They did have all those flashcards, like I said, the videos, webinars, and the course book. There's different packages. I think the less expensive one, if you use the link down below, you'll get a little bit of a discount, save your coin. It's $35. There's practice tests that specifically go over what you need to know for the test. There's a test for every chapter and section. The test is multiple choice, and you can choose how many questions you want to be asked and how long you want to basically time you, which is helpful because remember, your test is timed. And it's 150 multiple choice questions. So it does feel like you're taking the test when you're taking it on Prep Agent. Every single time you get a question wrong, I'll tell you in depth why you got it wrong. And if you get a question correct, I'll tell you why you got it correct too. And if you do get it wrong too, I'll save it on the side for review. So when you're done with those questions or that chapter test, you'll be able to go through the questions that you got wrong and review them, which was really helpful so that it didn't just like go through my mind and like in one ear and out the other. Like I was able to review them, which was nice. So when I first started doing those practice exams, I probably did like 25 questions, and then I decided to do the 100 questions and then 150 multiple choice questions because they're all multiple choice, but just to get a real feeling of what it's going to be like the day of the test. Something else was take those practice tests over and over again and try to time yourself with that. I know it can be difficult at first because it's a lot of questions. It does feel like it's a lot of questions. It does feel so long. Like it feels like you're sitting there for hours and hours, but in reality, it's probably only like 2 hours that you're taking your test. But it's really helpful because I finished my test with some time remaining, my actual exam. I finished with some time remaining, which is helpful because I can go through the questions that I didn't feel so good about or the questions that I had flagged. So I would definitely look into Prep Agent. I would not second guess yourself about buying something that's not even too expensive. It's like $35 if you use the link. So I would definitely use that if you want to pass your test. Some test taking tips I would say was, remember the test is 150 multiple choice questions and 3 hours long. So I would eat and get a good night rest before. You don't want to be feeling nauseous, or you don't want to be feeling like your stomach is growling the whole time of the test. And get a good night rest because you don't want to be feeling like a zombie during this test that's so important to you. The second thing is, during the test, you have an option on the screen where you can flag the question. So basically, if you flag it, it just highlights it and you'll be able to see it throughout the test, like this one's unanswered or you have to return back to this one. And this was helpful too because your test is timed, like I've mentioned, and you don't want to be spending too long on just one question. If you don't get it off the top of your head or after reading it like at least 2-3 times, then just flag it and go to the next one and return to it later. Something else is, this is kind of confusing to explain, but you'll see it on the test that, let's say you don't understand one question and it can be answered with your another question later in the test. It's hard to explain, but you'll realize it once you're taking the test, like, oh, they just answered my question like 5 questions ago. Okay, so just look out for that, or just flag them if you see something that's similar. It might be able to help you out. Those are pretty much all the tips that I can share with you guys that I felt worked really helpful and what got me to pass on my first try. I really want you guys to read the chapter summaries, try Prep Agent, do the flashcards, just go through those steps because I felt pretty prepared when I went in. Of course, I was still nervous and I was getting like my hands were shaking and all of that because it was something so big for me and so important to me that I didn't want to fail. And these steps that I mentioned were just extremely helpful. I felt ready, and that's exactly what I want for you guys, okay? So thank you so much for watching and sticking around. I wish you guys the best of luck. If you guys do pass on your first try, or if you don't, go back at it. Go and try harder, study a little bit harder. If you guys have any questions or need help with anything, always leave a comment down below, or you can reach me on my Instagram. It's janessa.flores. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, bye.